And this is going to be about the Constitution and sovereignty, being sovereign. What is it? How can you be? Social Security number. Food for thought. What are your thoughts? I'm looking forward to hear from you.
So it puts us into a situation. The language technically says persons, so illegal aliens should be counted and should count towards apportionment, yet Indians not taxed cannot or should not be. Are they not, are illegal aliens not really the same as an Indian not taxed? They are a foreigner or a sovereign person outside the system that doesn't pay taxes because they're not really a part of the system. They're not within the full jurisdiction. So there you go. So now, so today we have the system deciding that the illegal aliens will be counted towards apportionment. Well, what are they looking at? It says persons. The only persons that are not really counted are Indians not taxed. So technically, they're right when they count illegal aliens towards apportionment. Personally, I think they shouldn't be. It's only citizens and permanent resident aliens who have basically taken the oath that they are under the jurisdiction of the United States should be counted towards apportionment. However, to make sure that that language clearly states that, we need an amendment. Because the Constitution doesn't clearly state that. The Constitution says persons. And
Okay, now I have taken David's broadcast on counting this consensus, all right, and thank you for being here. I'll get to the chat in a minute. Okay, now, so David V Gibbs is talking about counting the illegals in the census. And is it constitutional? We can go over this. Now, this is going to be about an hour long today, okay? And so bear with me as I'm getting this set. Okay, one more time. Now, I know one of these guys, and he's been doing this for quite some time. And so let's hear what they got to say. Let me know what you think. And this is under the Freedom Act. Freedom. Okay, so this is for education purposes, and let's think, guys. Let's give this some thought. And like I was saying, there's quite a bit of research that needs to be done around this, and David V. Gibbs just pointed out where it fits. Okay, because do you need a Social Security number? Do you need a Social Security number? Well, this is going to be very thought-provoking and challenging. It might even make some people mad. But let's think about it. Okay, where we've been programmed. Do you think? Maybe we've been programmed. What do you think? Let's see what these guys got to say. Okay. This will definitely...
George for Title, Inflation.us. We're here in Southern California. We're going to cover a story about living free. Most people have your insurance bills that you got to pay, your medical insurance bills, your car registration bills. I mean, the amount of bills that people get can crush a family. We're going to talk about a whole new way to live, not just free of bills, not just free of extra expenses and taxes and all these other regulations and burdens that the government puts upon you. I'm talking about an entire change of lifestyle. This is the beginnings of an off the urban grid series, Living Free. It's kind of based upon Freeman on the land. And we're going to find out more. We have two gentlemen here that have agreed for us to kind of profile what they have done over the last, 10, 20, 30 years in their quest to live free.
Out of high school, I was lucky enough to get a union job, Teamsters, working for UPS. About 5 years later, I got married, and obviously it was a part-time job, even though it paid well. So I ended up getting two union jobs, and I worked for, it's actually the largest private employer in San Bernardino for a major supermarket chain. And I worked two jobs for 5 years, trying to make ends meet. And then we moved and decided to buy a house, and I actually got to go full-time at the store. So I did that for another 21 years. And when we moved in the house, I was lucky enough to be able to meet all the bills on I was working 6 days a week, but my wife was able to stay home and take care of the children, and we were living the American dream. It was like, we had this beautiful home. I had two beautiful kids, and it was within a few years, we weren't able to make it. One of the things that when I was working graveyard at the store, I was listening to all these AM radio stations, like Coast to Coast and similar shows. And one thing you started to figure out was the basic problem in our country and probably around the world is our money system. We seem to have one group of people who can create money, and the other people that have to work for the money. And I don't know. I guess I overreacted when I got a little mad. So I sold that house. Obviously, my wife didn't like it at all, and decided to try to get as simple as a life I could. I got rid of all my credit cards, tried to get rid of, any kind of government, I consider them contracts like Social Security and driver's licenses, and just try to see if I could, in my mind, live free, or at least have the government what it said it's supposed to. If you read the Constitution for the United States and for the Constitution for the state of California, the purpose of government originally was to protect our inalienable rights. And it seems to me they're supposed to be working for us, and then you look around, it seems to me we're working for them. So I had a problem with that. So I decided, I actually went back to school and studied law, because I found that law is what they're using to entrap all of us. Law was designed to protect our rights, but...
Now, he has gone to school and studied law, okay? So, just continuing. What are your thoughts on this? This is just getting started. It gets deep, it's going to get heavy, and it should provoke a lot of thought. Like I said, I know one of these guys.
Like when you go to court and law is by definition the use of force. It authorizes the use of force. So in other words, if you it authorizes them to pull you over. It authorizes them to take your wages. They can evict you out of your home. That's what the court system now is. They're rationalizing their system and forcing the people to do something. And it's supposed to be, you're supposed to have due process. But when you find out how the courts are running now and the way they should be running, you find out it's all a show. It's just a big circus show. There's you know, I've actually filed a motion. When you understand these courts are not constitutional courts. There are at one time there was all these courts in California, and in 1998 they merged them. So when you go walk into a court, you may be in this jurisdiction or this jurisdiction or this jurisdiction, and if you don't know where you're at. I refuse to accept that I'm one of their subjects. I'm a people, and you're supposed to be working there. Now, I don't want to do anything immoral. I just want them to protect my rights. And so when you go in there with that attitude, you can have some effect, but they will kick in. You know, this whole system under the 13th Amendment is considered voluntary. But as soon as you decide not to volunteer, then they have a problem with that.
This government's just getting out of control. They think the Constitution's a joke. You know, I've had plenty of confrontations with the police. In one situation, a cop pulled his billy club out and told me, that's the Constitution. So when you've got men who are supposed to be law enforcement who act with this ruthless blood mentality, and they're supposed to be protecting us, we've got a serious problem in this country. I know there's some good policemen out there, but I'll say it right here in front of the world, there's not very many. The other problem we have in this country with the police is they know absolutely nothing about the law, and that's their job. You know, they put a tin badge on these guys' chests, send them out there with a revolver and a billy club, and now all of a sudden they're experts in the law. So I'm sorry, it don't work that way. You know, that's the way the gang members do it. Now, if you want to be associated with gang members, that's what's to protect the Constitution. And it wasn't too long ago I heard a testimony by Sheriff Mack from Arizona. Now, there's a man who got convicted one day and realized, hey, I'm not protecting the people. I'm destroying them. I'm just running around with my billy club collecting revenue for some bankrupt corporation, which they call a police department or sheriff department.
What are your
That's
thoughts?
what it's all about, just collecting money and beating down on innocent women and families that can't even afford gas for their cars. That's not the policeman's job. I think my wake-up call was,
What are your thoughts?
who is the IRS? And how come they're taking all this money from me and they're giving me absolutely nothing except a hard time? So I started researching into that, and then that it just expanded and exploded from there. Most government agencies today are just basically parasites. They produce nothing. They just suck the lifeblood out of the people. Now, the reason this is all taking place, for the most part, I believe, is we live in a debt society, debt-based society. The money's all backwards. Technically, there is no money. If you don't have a silver coin in your pocket or a gold coin in your pocket, you're a vagrant. You have nothing. So this is all connected, I think, with a Social Security number. And I realized, you know what? That's not quite the mark of the beast yet, but it's almost there. It's a precursor. That number, people worship that number. There's two things in this country people worship. They don't worship a man and his handshake. They worship a piece of plastic with his picture on it, and they worship that number. It's like, I got a cell phone, but you can't believe the trouble I went to get it without this evil number. It's just amazing to me. You can try and send some money to somebody from a local drugstore on the other side of the world. Oh, if you don't have that piece of plastic, we can't ship that money. It's like, it's incredible. I said, what's wrong with me? I'm standing here in front of you. You want to just put a picture frame around my face? Let's pretend I'm the ID card.
Hey, this is George from TitleInflation.us. We're here with Kurt and Tim discussing Freeman on the land, living undisclosed location, Southern California. And maybe you guys just do a real quick intro, your background, and what caused you to live this type of lifestyle. Kurt, you want to go first?
Okay. You know, my birth certificate is my name and my Bible. Yeah, I don't have some special that the government is borrowing millions of dollars on my birth certificate somewhere. If they're doing it, they don't have my consent anymore.
I think that's the thing they got, is everybody's in debt. And we've got to expect a certain standard of living. And my opinion is we're slowly being ratcheted down to, they're trying to make the United States a level playing field with other countries in the world. In other words, they're raising their standard of living by lowering ours.
You need to just start going over all your billing, you know, you gotta learn how to cut. And if you have to, you might have to move out of that $400,000 house. There's plenty of them out there now for $100,000, plenty of them for $50,000. Just take steps like that. But yeah, get out of debt, first of all.
So that's the number one way to become a free man is you can't be free if you have debt.
Exactly.
So cut up the credit cards, work on getting rid of the mortgage, and then try to get into a situation where you have very small amount of expenses.
Yeah, because that way, I mean, now, you know, especially anybody that's working, you never know from day to day, either they're gonna cut your hours, you're gonna lose your job. So I see people right now that, you know, that I'm dealing with, they have a mortgage, they got 2 car payments, and I just talked to a guy last week, he just lost his job. So they're gonna have to walk away from the house and walk away from their vehicles. They really don't know what they're gonna do. And they were actually, you know, in everybody's mind, they were living the American dream. But, you know, once he lost his job, you know, he might get unemployment, but for a while, it's not gonna be anything compared to what he was making. If anybody has Social Security, every year or two, they'll send you a thing and they'll say, okay, you have this amount of entitlement for your benefit. And you have an account with this much money in it. There's no money there. The Social Security system is actually thrown into the general fund. So they could pull the rug out from under Social Security at any minute. And, you know, they keep talking about it going bankrupt any time. So I think that's the big trick is they want to get you on some kind, depending on their system, because they keep extending the unemployment benefits. And, you know, it sounds reasonable, but, you know, how can you keep dishing out something and no money be coming in? If there's so many on big government to save us, and they're not going to be there. We want to have peace in our life. In other words, we don't want to be always scared or worried, and we want to do as we want to, as long as we don't injure somebody else. And it seems that now that everything that if we want to do something, including work or have property, it's all regulated.
And if you go to biblical law, one basic law in there is, owe no man no debt. Well, sorry folks, in this country, owing debt, that's the name of the game. The government's the biggest debtor that ever existed on the face of the earth.
Well, if you go back and you study the history, you know, I mean, first they created a Federal Reserve, which was the violation of the Constitution in the first place, because Congress can't delegate to private anybody something that's their responsibility. It was the wealthiest and the largest creditor nation in the earth. 2013 will be 100 years. I think we're the biggest debtor nation. Anyway, it took them 20 years, and basically, if you read the Constitution, this has never been amended. All money must be gold and silver. You can't print it. It's a commodity. Somebody had to go out and mine it, make it, melt it down, and so it was equal in air. And if you understand what justice is, and you know, he was saying, what does it mean to be a free man? I'm saying it's being a moral and responsible man. Because if you understand what justice is, if you read up the definition, and you know, you go to court, you're expecting justice. It means rectitude, which means a moral character, which is fair for you is fair for me. Now we have a private corporation called the Federal Reserve that can print money at will. When you go to the bank, you sign a promissory note. The bank actually accepts that as a from you. In other words, you're depositing your future pay. That's put it, and the banking system is a double book entry system. They never show you the asset side of the books. That is your promissory note. They deposit that and write a check on the promissory note. They create it, and if you read all the Federal Reserve publications, they admit they create money out of thin air. So, to me, that's not a just system. People are realizing, okay, it's a win-win situation for the bank, and it's a lose-lose-lose for the people.
So what we're talking about now is the Social Security number, because that's where it all comes from. Tell me what that means to you, Social Security.
Well, for me to be a free man, I realized soon after I started studying on this, I had to get rid of that number. So, because that number makes you a slave. It connects you to all this unlawful the government creates. So, to get rid of that number, yeah, you got problems in your life, but you also have a lot of freedom too. And just to sleep at night, you know, I'm not a part of those 15 or 20 trillion dollar debt numbers they keep throwing across the TV screen. It gives me a peace of mind. I'm not a part of it. I don't owe anybody any debt. Okay, and that's the way I want to keep it.
Now, everybody has a social security. You have to get a social security number.
No, you don't.
Why?
Show me a law that says you have to have it.
Well, if you read the 13th Amendment, see, they had government believes if they do something and give you a remedy, it's okay. They created the 13th Amendment, which prohibited slavery or involuntary servitude. Well, it was the presumption there, you can volunteer. So then they created the 14th Amendment, created a U.S. citizen, which most people don't understand. Prior to that amendment, there was no such thing as the United States citizen legally defined. California Supreme Court, in the case before that, just said before that a U.S. citizen was a general name given to state citizens. In other words, if you understand, if you live in California and you're one of the people, you should actually be called Californian. So U.S. citizen is basically a subject of Congress. Yeah, there's a form to get rid of your social security number, but
Now, the Social Security Commission will kick and scream when you fill that form out.
here's a
And
second.
they'll play stupid, kick and scream, everything, because they don't want you to fill that form out.
Why?
Okay, so there's a form that's available through the Social Security office that they, based on his experience here, is available, but they do not want you to know about it. They play dumb because they don't want you to fill it out. Why? What are they afraid of? Are they losing? I'm just throwing this out here. This is America. You know, our forefathers gave us a constitution for a reason. And why is it such a big deal? You know, a free man is someone that is not supposed to be a slave. We gotta know this. I'm just learning myself, and I'm not a radical, you know. I'm just an average person like everyone else out here. But they're bringing up some good points. What are your thoughts? You know, it's like wakey, wakey, America, you know? What's really going on? Why is it such a big deal? Why? Let's see what else they've got to say. And this is about 5 years old. This was actually more than, this was produced in 2014, okay? 2014. Let's see what they got to say.
Because by being connected to each man with that number, they can create all this debt. As soon as you say, you know what, I don't want to be a part of your debt anymore, they just lost an account.
And you said social security numbers didn't exist before 1933.
No, it was created in the act right after 1933.
So before 1933, what did people do?
Before that, people actually were responsible. They would have to go out to work and save for their retirement. And of course, back then, money was gold and silver coin. So that, you know, you see all these old movies and people had their money in the mattress. They didn't put it in the banks because people understood they didn't trust banks. And their money was gold and silver coin. So before that, but the Great Depression created a situation where people, it's much like today, people were on the streets starving. They were in bread lines. If you go on YouTube and you watch some of the videos back then, there were riots in the streets. And, you know, people just don't realize how rough it was. I'm at an age where I actually knew some people that survived the Great Depression, and they literally lived much like the way I am now. I mean, obviously they went out and got their Social Security number, but they put away every dime they could because they were always afraid that it would happen again.
So the government, it started with the Federal Reserve, but it started with a Social Security number. What's the significance? Why did they want to get the Social Security number?
It's a tracking number. everything you do is tied to that number, and they can tell, now
Well, what's wrong with that?
well,
Being devil's advocate, what's wrong with that?
if you read the preamble of the California Constitution, it says one of the unalienable rights is privacy. And why did our founding fathers so much want privacy? That's why they have to have warrants to invade your privacy and look at your papers. Was because they always knew that big government, because they just came from England where there was an abusive king. And if you read the Declaration of Independence, it was basically an indictment against the king for all his tyranny, and just basically he could stop you on the street and pick your pockets. So the founding fathers knew that if the people were going to have the freedom, they had to be private. And the Social Security makes you public. You cannot do anything because, and you ask me, is that number public? Yeah, you have to have it for a job. You have to have it for a bank account. You have to have it for a driver's license. They're all now required. And if you read the original Social Security Act, they said it was an insurance policy and that number would never be used for an identification.
That's right.
Now it's required.
That's right.
And like I got this section, you look at the California Vehicle Code 1653, it requires for you to have a driver's license that you submit your Social Security number. So you cannot do anything now without that number.
Okay, and what are the negative aspects of having a social security number? It seems like you're building up, well, a lot of people don't believe in social security anymore, that there's not going to be any money in social security. But what are the negative aspects of having a social security number?
Well, when you accept the Social Security number, the presumption is now they had to make a artificial system, because if you understand, gold and silver is something you can touch. It's, now we have paper dollars, and it says Federal Reserve note, and it used to say redeemable to bearer for $1 in silver coin. Now it just says it's a promise to pay. If you read what a note is, it's a promise to pay. What are they promised to pay? Another promise to pay. It's just paper. So it's an artificial system. So what they did is they had to create an artificial system for you to live in. So like income. Most people don't understand. If you read the Social Security Act, that's also created the income tax.
So everything came from the Federal Reserve and the Social Security number.
Right.
Everything that birthed all of these negative aspects of the big government bureaucracy.
The big bureaucracy back in 33, they were going to leave this country in the Depression and leave people starving to death if they didn't get them on their knees to accept that number. That's how important this was to the IMF, the big banks of the world. We'll put those Americans on their knees and they'll beg for that number. And then we'll tax them and their children and their great-grandchildren. We'll just keep going with it. Now we're just getting into phase 2. We've just come out of phase 1. Now they want to tax us until the whole world dies. And they made the debt so huge, there's no way anybody can pay it, but it's all counterfeit. And what keeps that counterfeit going? The bankers, the guy out there on the street who thinks he's a law enforcement officer with a tin badge on his chest, they're the ones keeping this phony counterfeit thing going. If those people would learn the law and back off, this thing would collapse and go back to reality.
Well, and the other thing is with the Social Security system, what people, it's in the name, it's a socialist system. The presumption is the people that gave up all their property in something called the New Deal, which is basically Social Security, in exchange for benefits and privilege from government, and basically your retirement. So
when you accept a Social Security number, you're giving up your free rights.
Unalienable rights. And if you know what that word means, it means unalienable. It means you can't put a price on them. They're so valuable, money can't buy them.
So when I get a Social Security number, you're saying I become a slave.
Yes.
Yeah.
I become a government employee is what you said.
Well, I was going to, here's a couple of these. This is like a Supreme Court case. Income has been taken to mean the same thing as used in the corporate excise tax of 1909 and the 16th Amendment and the various revenue acts. In other words, the income tax, if you understand it and you read, I actually got a copy of the corporate excise tax of 1909. That is the act that created the income tax. And so what it is, everybody goes, how did we go from having inalienable rights to privileges? Like, now you have a driving privilege. You have a privilege to go work now, and your privilege is up on you getting that number. So, we'll get into how we have problems getting pulled over trying to travel without a driver's license.
System, and all of a sudden nothing makes sense anymore, or it makes perfect sense in your world. Well, you stop. I mean, that's kind of like the foundation brick underneath the government control over a person is the social security number. Once you take that out, then you're saying,
then I'm going to claim my inalienable rights. I'd rather give up those benefits and take your God-given rights.
and let's
When you cut the cord, basically it's an umbilical cord, social security number. Or if you want to go to the next stage, you're getting off your mother's breast, grow up. Be responsible for yourself. You work, you save for your future, you build for your family, so your family can inherit something, not some parasite government. If you get rid of your social security number, yeah, you're getting off the breast. And all of us out there that have one or had one, I'm sorry, you're on the breast. Wake up, people.
So, but once you get off the breast, you take away Social Security. There's some benefits now that you have inalienable rights. You're under a whole different system. What system are you? And then what are the tangible benefits now when you take yourself out of the equation? Like
You're
in that
now in a lawful system. When you live in a debt-based system, you are unlawful. I don't care how many flags you wrap around yourself or fly in your front yard. If you're under a social security number, you're in a debt system. And you're promoting it. By pulling away from it, now you begin down the tough road of freedom. And yes, freedom is not free. It's always been a battle. But I feel now just getting out of this number system and number system that they've engulfed us with, it's going to be one of the biggest battles that Americans have ever faced.
Yeah, basically, if you understand the original concept of this country, there was supposed to be no direct taxes. So your property, like your car, your house, your work, those were not to be taxes. There would always be indirect taxes. Indirect tax would be a sales tax, would be like the gasoline taxes. Those are legitimate taxes, but you can always avoid them. If you chose to buy less gasoline, you would reduce your taxes. But by having that social security number and dedicating your property to the state, which is registering now with the county recorder, it actually what it is a means of government control over your life. Because let's say we're in a situation like we are now, everybody's losing their jobs. Okay, let's say you even have your house paid off. Are you?
Now, I think the timing of that was really bad or intentional because it was showing they were chickens. No, I haven't done this. So maybe we're all chickens. But they're experiencing some freedoms. Experience. Like I say, it's food for thought. Something to think about. There's a balance here somewhere. There's a balance.
And pay your property taxes. So now the government, I like to call it, like in the old days it would be the king, can now come in. You're not paying your tribute to the king, so now he has the right to throw the serfs off the so now you're basically homeless again. And so I don't consider me a lawbreaker at all, although the government at this point does consider me a lawbreaker. And it's basically because, as long as I'm not injuring somebody else, I feel that I should be able to exercise my unalienable rights.
And let me add this, because there's so many people out there who feel like, oh, how's the government going to survive? How are they going to help all these other people? And it's to the point now, me personally, it's a joke, but some people it's a very serious issue and they want to beat you up when you say, oh, I don't think I owe this tax or that tax. But they act like, how are they going to survive? Well, let me just give you a little insight. You got to do your research, though, to check this out. But if a government nowadays collects $10, their community's lucky if they get $1 of that back. Because our evil governments have 2 sets of books, if not 3.
Social Security, driver's license. Let's talk about the national debt. We talk about that in the documentaries I've done. Our national debt out of control. It's past 12 trillion. We've gone from the largest creditor nation to the largest debtor nation. Who owns all this debt? They always talk about we're giving this debt to our children, our poor children.
Yeah.
Now, how the heck did my children own this debt, which they've used to, they've used it to spend money in wars on Afghanistan and Iraq? I mean, why do my children owe this debt?
Because they deceived you as a dad to let them have that Social Security number.
Well, and what people gotta realize, okay, if you read the Constitution, money is gold or silver coin, and the reason is you can't counterfeit it. You can't just print it. So, the way I like to put people picturing how this all works is, the government prints the money. And I don't know if you remember a few years ago with Ross Perot, they were saying we're gonna balance the budget. If you understand the system, if you balance the system, it'll collapse.
Because we're a debt-based monetary system.
Yes. Now, this is
Our money is debt.
Exactly.
Itself is
it's a
debt,
lien. Yes. It's a lien against your property. So,
which is unconstitutional.
yes, because they didn't give you any consideration for it. So, if the best way I could put this is, let's say we wanted to pay off the debt and be debt free. So let's say a dollar bill represents all the money in circulation from the United States, and there was 1% interest on it because it's a debt-based society. In other words, we give all our property to the Federal Reserve in the form of a bond, and they print the money, but they always charge interest. So let's say we want to pay off the Federal Reserve all that debt that we gave our children. And let's say a $1 bill would represent it. Okay, so we pull all our money, and now there's no more money in circulation because we're going to pay off the debt. Okay, let's say the debt, all the money in circulation is that $1 bill, but they charge 1% interest. Where do you get the money to pay the interest? You have to borrow it. You can never pay it off. It's a Ponzi scheme. Well, it's mathematically impossible to pay it off.
That's what people need to get from this.
That is slavery by definition. Well, and the problem is, like I said before, is the interest. If government printed it interest-free, then a dollar would stay a dollar. There would never be inflation. The inflation is totally to the bankers.
That's how come if you stop using this and you say, okay, I want to use silver or I want to barter, you're breaking the law.
No.
Or you're breaking their law.
You're breaking their
Well,
code.
yeah.
Your code.
Let's say if we wanted to pay our electric bill in gold and silver coin, they would probably want to give you face value for it.
Yeah.
So let's say, a $1 silver coin now is probably worth around $17 to $20. So, you can't, and then there's certain places that won't, you're right, will only accept Federal Reserve notes. I know, like if you try to pay your property taxes.
Everywhere only accepts Federal Reserve.
And the reason is because they're all tied into that system.
The debt-based monetary credit system.
Right. And the corporations Lincoln even said it. He said he was concerned about this country because the banks and the corporations would use the prejudice of the people to, in other words, they used our prejudice to fractionalize us, and we're blaming each other. We're blaming the illegal aliens, we're gay marriage, whatever it is, we're blaming each other.
Obama,
Yeah.
Bush, Republicans, Democrats.
Exactly.
When they wouldn't even have the money to do this damage if it wasn't for the Federal Reserve.
Exactly. So
That's why we can wage war. That's why we can too much government entitlement spending. It's because they have unlimited amounts of money.
and they can just print it, and they can force you to pay it.
Our children owe that
Now,
money.
if you back up a little bit, even when I was a child, you could still find a dollar that said silver certificate on it. Now, theoretically, that dollar had a silver backing it up somewhere. We were all told there were stacks of gold for $4. Now all that's in there is a mouse with a piece of cheese. But at one point, there's actually some bullion silver and gold bullion backing up the currency. Now there's nothing backing up, and what a lot of people don't even understand is even the paper money that's out there is a fraction of the e-money that's floating around the globe.
The common person, if you say the Federal Reserve, you say don't have a social security number, don't have a driver's, they'll think crazy, crazy, crazy.
Sure.
But if you say your children don't owe $100,000 to the national debt, they'll say, now that makes sense. Talk about that.
A tax is supposed to do the necessity of government, in other words, protecting our rights. Now, when they take more than what is a legal tax and take money from you and give it to this guy, that's not a tax, that's stealing under guise of the tax.
That's a redistribution of wealth.
Exactly. And you'll always find out, whether it's like this Car for Junker program or all these things, these stimulus projects, look at what they do. Who benefits? It's always the corporate world.
Giving trillions of dollars to Wall Street banks, giving money to General Motors,
Yeah.
all these stimuluses, all these bailouts, this money's coming from you.
Right. And it always benefits the corporations and banks. It never benefits the people. Because yes, the person got a new car, right? Let's say he had his old clunker car, he's going, wow, I got so many thousands of dollars from the government. But he was held win-win for the government.
Okay, so let's just wrap this up again. So you're saying the children don't owe national debt.
It's just, all those are digits in a computer. They just punch them in there, just like the stimulus package. Where did that money come from? They created trillions of dollars and they just punched it into a computer. Now so what's the answer? It's ultimately we need to go back to a just money system. And what's the odds of doing that? Because if you look throughout history, people were getting away from the banks. They were doing so well, they were virtually paying cash for everything. And the bankers were in a panic. And they had to come up with something to get us back in debt.
And now the bankers are in a panic again because the economy's crashing and
Well, they created this panic.
Okay.
Just like the Great Depression, like I said, Bernanke in a speech admitted, and it's still on the Federal Reserve's website. They list all his speeches. He admitted that the Federal Reserve created the 1929 crash and the Great Depression, and he apologized for it. But has the Federal Reserve ever been audited or made accountable? No. And they're doing it once again. As soon as something happens, it goes back to the old system they used in Germany. They create a crisis with a foregone conclusion. In other words, their agenda. So out of this recession that we're going to go through now, you'll see a stricter, more regulation, more taxes,
more government control.
more government. Yeah. And that's their intent and purpose. It's control. It's not only the money, but in order to maintain the money system, they have to have more control. So it's both.
And beware, people, because if they can't keep this Ponzi scheme going, they will create some kind of disaster. And who's they? You figure that out for yourself.
Well, the next thing we're going to talk about is driver's license. Everybody thinks you need a driver's license. Everyone has a driver's license. But there's
Almost everyone.
There's a whole bunch of negative connotations of that. I mean, you have to go get it retested, and owning cars, you got to pay registration. In California, the registration fees are ridiculous.
And they keep going up.
And they keep going up. And that's like, I never understood that. A registration fee you should pay once. That's a tax. It's an ongoing yearly tax. Talk about how a driver's license is in a Freeman's vocabulary or lifestyle.
Well, first, I think people should go back to the beginning. I got here this is the original Cal statute that created the DMV. So anyway, it defines the original intent and purpose, and it's never been changed. There's been these definitions they've been kind of hidden, but they've never been changed. So I'll read the first sentence of the act. An act to impose a license fee for the transportation of persons or property for higher compensation. So the first presumption is you're you're on the roadway for higher compensation. In other words, you're a business for profit. And then you get down here and it defines the word operator. And the word operator shall include all persons, firms, associations, and corporations who operate motor vehicles upon the public highways in this state and thereby engage in the transportation of persons or property for higher compensation.
So what you're saying is millions and millions of Californians don't technically, legally need to have a driver's license.
Even
Even if they have a social security card, you're saying legally they don't need a license.
Unless they're hauling their family around for a business. Most people are just hauling their children somewhere. Is that a business? Are you going to the grocery store? Is that a business? No.
Are you making a profit?
No.
So the founding fathers wanted us to be able to travel freely without a cost or regulation.
That is a basic, if you want to see a free society, the right to travel is about as basic as you can get. That's almost like breathing air.
And let me throw this out there. This will really shock some people. A license is an evil. That's a bad word. A license gives a fiction permission to operate in reality. So by claiming a license, you're saying I'm a corporate fiction. I don't want.
Now, corporate fiction. You know, it's kind of like you go out, you start a business, and you get a fictitious business name, and you've got to file this fictitious business name. So there is this legal terminology he's using, I think goes over all of our heads unless you're familiar with this term and how our government uses it. So to better understand it, Google gets a hold of some books that deal with fiction, a fictitious person, a straw man, Freeman. There's a lot of terminology here that most of us don't really understand. I didn't want you to get lost with that statement and it just pass you by. That's important to know and understand, and I need to know it better. I don't know much about it. I'm learning here along with you guys and wrapping my head around this as well. So let's continue. I look forward to hearing from you after this broadcast.
Be a real man or a real woman. If that's what you want to be, fine. But I don't want to be a fake. I want to be real. And I don't need permission from some bankrupt corporation to tell me whether I can go from point A to point B. That was given to me from my creator. And my creator ain't some state legislature. Okay?
Now, that takes us over to the 2020 federal ID. That's exactly what they're doing. And he mentioned this 5 years ago. And look what's happening now. Well, actually, 2004, 2005, when Bush was in office, they passed this, put this 2020 federal ID into motion. And it was done underhanded. Nobody knew about it. The general public was not aware until his last year and a half. They've been making it known. Bush should have never done this. I really hope Trump gets a hold of it and throws it out. The legislature needs to remove it. The legislature needs to overturn it. Trump needs to veto it. This is going to total violation of our Constitution. Utter, total violation. And that causes us to become entrapped. It causes us to become, what's the word? Held hostage in our own states. If you can't travel by plane, you don't have the freedom to move about. You've got a God-given right. How long before they shut down the roadways if you don't have this ID? And this is something he mentioned 5 years ago. He didn't know this was coming. Again, food for thought, something to think about. And David Gibbs, in the beginning, mentions how all that's a violation.
So when a police officer pulls you over, you don't have a license. How do you deal with that?
Well, that happened to me just recently, and the reason I got pulled over was because my windows were tinted. It was not my car, but I was behind the wheel. I was not driving. If you look up the definition of driver, it means a person hired to take cargo or people for. In other words, you're
Passengers, not people.
yeah, you're taking people for a fare. You're like a chauffeur.
Like a taxi cab driver.
Exactly.
Yes.
So you're a passenger even though you're driving the car.
Well, I'm traveling. I'm not a driver. So anyway,
But in common speak, people think, oh, you are the driver of the car.
that's the thing.
But in legal speak, you're not the driver.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Yes.
We've adopted many common words that have legal meanings, and we don't know what the legal meaning is.
Yeah, driver is a commercial word.
Yeah, driver means you're employed to make money. You're making a living out of it.
What's that called when you drive a car?
That's moving about the common
You're
way.
traveling. Yeah. So anyway, I got
Operating the car?
Operator is somebody that owns the business.
Operator is a commercial term.
Yeah. So
You're
that's,
behind the wheel.
there you go.
You want to get out of commerce if you want to be free. Now, if you don't want to be free, just stay in, sign up for all.
But like when I talk to people, I'll say I'm a driver, but I'm not talking legally. So when an officer pulls me over like that particular time for my tinted windows, he pulled me over. I handed him an ID that was not from the state or United States.
What does it look like?
It's just got a picture. It's actually from an Indian, but it's actually it is valid because this particular Indian tribe that gave me the ID does have a treaty signed by the President of the United States back in the 1700s.
But it is a piece of plastic, and it does have a photograph on it. And because so-called law enforcement worship plastic cards, it works.
Before that, you guys wouldn't even use cards.
No.
When you got pulled over, you would just say,
Because your average officer out there, he's not trained in the law. He has no concept about being a free man of the Constitution versus being in commerce. All they think is, you go out there, everybody's, basically what they're teaching them, but they don't even know it, is everyone's in commerce, and you make sure they stay in commerce. I don't want to be in commerce. Please, leave me alone.
you want to be a free man
I wanna be a
traveling
free- yeah.
privately.
I'm not hurting anybody. You know, that's the other thing that the law enforcement officers don't understand. Under the law, you have to hurt some property or hurt somebody to commit a crime. They've lost that concept. These guys are like babes in the woods. They don't even understand that. It's just like, oh, you broke this rule, that rule. Well, let's mention codes. Codes are evidence of a bankrupt society. You notice how they don't go, well, you broke this law or that law. They say you broke this code. Because codes take the place in a society when they're dealing in debt. And this goes all the way back to Lincoln.
So practically, when you're a free man traveling about, and you should use an ID, some type of ID.
Well,
You don't have to.
Yeah, you don't have to, but just
You could just bring paperwork showing the law, I guess.
Yeah, like I said, like when I go around, I carry a stack of papers. So like the other day, I got pulled over. I showed him my plastic card, and the first thing he looked at it, and he kind of chuckled, and he goes, "Oh, a constitutionalist." And you know, I've learned I don't try to argue with him. I just want to be left alone and go on my merry way. So I didn't say anything.
But you don't. You actually probably get bothered more than a typical person.
Well, obviously, you know, it's weird. You always feel a threat because when I'm traveling about and I'm just out there minding my own business and I'm not hurting anybody, I would like to be left alone. And they insist on bothering me. In other words, they will pull me over for tinted windows or whatever excuse. I just want to, and obviously there was no injured party. So,
Who's the injured party? The window?
yeah. So anyway, and the reason they think they can regulate your car is because you're in business. So as soon as you become a business, now you're exercising legislative privileges, and they can make all the rules and regulations over a privilege that they want. So, anyway, I handed him my ID, and I handed him some papers saying, you know, why I did this, and I actually showed him this one. This is the law that created the Department of Motor Vehicles. And he looked at it, and he goes, shook his head and goes, no, that can't be right. Now, this is a police officer. It seems to me that they should have some basic, you know, training in what the law is. And that shows you right there that he doesn't even know what the term operator. If you go in the code, this is no longer, they don't give you this anymore. Yeah, the statutes are the actual, if you want to call it the law, is the legislative record. But this was made in 1923. So in order to put all the legislative things in something that you can read, what happens is there's an attorney that takes the legislative thing and writes it down what he thinks they are saying in a code. The code is not the law. This is the law.
That's the law.
This is what the legislature wrote. The code is some attorney that takes the legislature and he summarizes it for you.
Basically perverts it.
Yeah, so this part they kind of left out.
These rights, and you guys are trying to go back.
Yeah.
Right, but you have to understand that we're all guilty because they tricked us into voluntarily giving all our rights up. So, if you point the finger at anybody, we all just need to point it at ourselves. So I'm trying to wake up, get the finger out of my face, and go and start claiming my rights. I don't want any of their privileges.
And that's the right thing to do, is claim your rights.
Claim them. Now, yes, it's a battle, and we got many battles ahead of us. I'm not going to tell anybody we got any silver bullets here. But you know what? If you read history, every battle that was fought for liberty, there was pain involved.
So you get pulled over, you don't have a license, you show them this, you still get the ticket, I'm sure.
Well, normally, most of the time they would impound your car if you don't have a driver's license.
So 90% of the time, they're impounding your car?
You don't want to drive a new Mercedes.
Yeah. Now I have some officers a few years back, and we entered into in my opinion, a settlement agreement, basically saying, and I carry the judgment with me, basically saying, if you can't prove that I'm here as a operator,
Commercial activity.
engaged in persons or property for hire compensation, then you need to leave me alone. And if you impound my car, think about it, if they impound your car, they're taking your property without due process.
And they just violated their oath of office, which most of them don't even have a clue what an oath of office is, even though you can get it with a signature.
So by fighting for your rights, you actually have a special privilege over other people.
No, I have a right. And
You have a right.
They don't have that right.
And what's your right that you have?
I can travel without, I should have the right to travel without being interrupted and allowed to have my privacy. I should be able to do what I want as long as I'm hurting somebody else and be left alone. I want peace.
Amen.
And most Americans view that as a privilege, the fact that...
Well, that's the way we've been taught.
So they can't impound your car?
Oh, they can do it.
They will do it. And it's
But they
only
can be held responsible too.
Yeah, the Ninth Circuit in California said if the Sheriff's Department breaks the law, they are liable under a civil rights action.
And what does that mean?
That means that okay, since I entered that agreement, and I have a court stamped document that says if you take my car without proving that I was engaged in a business, you're going to pay me $10,000 an hour for holding onto my property. So as soon as they look at that, they go, oh, okay, well, maybe we won't do that. So instead, they will make me sign a notice to appear. So that's what they did. Because if you understand, so that he wrote me a citation for driving without a license. So I'm supposed to appear in a few months. But if you understand what is the crime of driving without a license, it's tax evasion. The presumption is you're in a business for gain and profit, and you have to pay an income tax on that gain and profit. So the crime is tax evasion. But I say I'm not in a taxable event. So I'm not taxable. I'm not doing anything that needs to be regulated. So that is my defense.
With this lifestyle, if it really worked, you wouldn't have to pay registration fees for your car. You don't have to go get a license. You don't have to deal with a DMV.
Right. Now
And
why?
you shouldn't have to pay
a yearly registration fee.
Yeah, now why is that so, why am I such a, and people like that such a threat? Because if the general audience out there, the people out there understood that, think of the liability the government has of refunding all that money over, since 1920, they've been doing this.
They lose millions of dollars of revenue each day if everybody'd wake up and tell, hey, you know what?
Or it's a cascading waterfall effect.
Yes.
If you let a few people through, then there's
Yes.
no reason. And what we're saying is right now, you guys are proving the point. There is a hole in this system that they've created.
Right.
You have to fight, though. You have to fight for it.
Yes. And it's not really a hole. It's always been there. It's just whether you're willing to stand up for it.
Yeah, and,
I'm explaining it from my point of view because I'm in the system.
yeah,
And
well,
it looks like to me, wow, you have a special privilege. You found a loophole. That's how I would see it, but even though you wouldn't characterize it that way.
and we've talked on the driver's license and social security, but this is the best method they used. A few years ago, I took martial arts. And if you take martial arts, you understand that rather than just taking a punch, you take their punch and you use their force against them. The government has learned to take all of our energies, and by using this credit system, they can print all the money they want and just make us liable for it. So they're taking our energy. So in other words, they can take everybody that's feeding it into the system, all their energy, and the few of us that are trying to live like we think we should, they're taking all your guys' energy and directing it towards us.
Let's talk about that in the next segment here. There's millions of Americans that are fed up with the system. They can't get jobs, and they just want to opt out. They know it's all a scam. What's the steps someone starts taking? I mean, you get out of debt. That's the big thing.
Right, and I
Do
think
you right away?
Or walk away from your debt.
Okay, either one.
You know, it was all done in a fraud or counterfeit. So walk away from it.
And then you're free.
But I think that your biggest freedom is knowledge. So once you understand how things work and some basic knowledge, you can overcome the system because you can expose their wrongdoing.
And how do people begin that process?
I think for me, it's one step at a time because we got into the system. It took us years to get in this bad of shape. And if you just jump off, it's like jumping off a cliff.
Yeah.
So you just do one thing at a time. And so, you know, as far as your legal rights, I would say just like fighting a traffic ticket, you'll learn so much just by fighting a traffic ticket. And you won't lose anything in that thing because nothing's criminal. There's no potential jail time except for driving without a license.
And if you don't have a job right now, you got plenty of time to do research and appear in court and defend yourself and fight that ticket.
And that's the beginnings of learning about your rights.
Yeah, and you'll learn the basic system. A traffic court, I would say, is a perfect way. I mean, even if it's just a parking ticket, to learn the system and learn what your rights are and what you can do.
And what resources do you use to learn?
Well, almost every community has a law library, so you can go there. But so you don't get discouraged and lose hope, there is a constitutional court that's still alive in America. It's called the Court of Record. Now, that Court of Record, you have to claim it. They're not just going to hand it to you. They're going to kick and scream. The judges will play ignorant of it. But a court of record is when you walk into the courtroom as a plaintiff, you are the court of record. It's not the joker with the black suit on, the black dress behind the bench. He's not the court of record. You are, as the man claiming the Constitution. And you take that Constitution, you study it. Don't get off on all these wild tangents about codes, rules, and regulations. That's just a debt-based system. You just stick to your Constitution, start studying it. I think you can Google search Court of Record, and it'll come up under Bill Thornton's website.
Yeah, I think there's
1215.org.
1215.org if you want to know.
I will have the 1215.org link in the description after the live stream. This Bill Thornton, I believe I'll have his website also, or where he's speaking, in the description at the end as well. But let's get through this, and then hopefully there'll be some people here where we can discuss this. And after the live stream, when you drop in, or if you have some questions, this is for learning, for make you stop and think. We're interviewing this right here, and they're giving us some basic foundations here. That's good. And I just learned about this video, like I said in the beginning. I know one of these guys here, and they're doing okay, So let's get on with this.
The difference in the courts. If you want to know what's wrong with our legal system, that's a really good, that would be a good start.
It'd be a good start. The Constitution's Court of Records still exists, and it's not what the new law books say it is, it's what the old law books define it as.
So what I'm getting from you guys is just start living like you're free, and you're gonna get into trouble, and then you have to fight.
Right.
You have to fight from that point of view.
And what I guess my warning is, I've talked to a lot of people who all of a sudden they go, oh yeah, everything's bad, and they dump everything, and they end up basically homeless or in jail. So you need to take it step by step. Like I said, it took us a long time to get in this much trouble, and each of us knows where we're at. They're the best decider of what steps they can take without getting in trouble, and make it a learning process rather than a
devastation process where you end up on the streets.
And the beauty of it all, you can slowly start teaching your law enforcement officers what the law really is. And wouldn't that be wonderful if our law enforcement officers knew the law? That would be a miracle in this country. Water bill, I go, no, I got my own water company. I got a well. She goes, okay, so you don't have that. She goes, do you have a bank account? I go, no, I just got a lot of cash. I'm pulling out some $100 bills. She goes, do you need a wife?
Yeah, we talk about all these problems of living free, but in the reality of it, it's living a free lifestyle is living an easier lifestyle than having to put up with all these bills, regulations, licensing. I mean, it's supposed to be a simple way to live.
Yes, and in a lot of respect it is. But like Tim was saying, well, just leave us alone. So the only time we really have much of a problem is when we're just going down the road, minding our own business, and some guy gets behind us and thinks, oh, maybe I can write the ticket, generate a little cash for my bankrupt corporation. Namely some kind of police department. Other than that, our life is great.
So what's going on here?
This is an off-the-grid house, completely off the grid. It's got a solar system in the back. It runs on a well water that's generated with solar power. And we can go around the back here and get a look at the solar setup. And, living under solar power, you have to cut back on energy, but you can live comfortably. And actually, these batteries would have cost $7,000 on the open market, but I was fortunate enough to get them for $1,200 because somebody working for the government said they wanted all brand new batteries, and these had a little dust on them. So I took them off their hands for $1,200. So this battery bank here is supplied by these 18 solar panels above us. These 18 solar panels, each solar panel produces 64 watts, and they feed that battery bank. And if you need extra power, we have a small Honda generator there for backup. So sometimes you got, 3 or 4 days of bad weather, you got to crank that generator up, charge that battery. But other than that, it takes care of itself.
What's the utility bills for a house like this?
Well, actually, there's zero, but you have to factor in, you have to buy all this hardware. So you basically have your own electric company. But you got to be a responsible person and maintain it properly, or it really gets expensive. Okay, we have a water cooler on this house because an air conditioner just draws too much energy. So we use this water cooler and it does fine. But for people who think, oh, I want to get off the grid and I want to buy all this stuff, if you want to have an air conditioner running all the time, you need about a $50,000 solar system. And I don't think that's economical or necessary. Americans need to get back to having a garden, growing a little bit of food. And if you don't know how to do it, learn how to do it. Start from scratch. It's not that complicated. And utilize a little, even if you, I think that's critical for what's coming ahead for America.
Yeah, I worked at a grocery chain for 21 years, and we're on this side of the mountains, and our warehouse was down the hill. So whenever we get a snow or something where the trucks couldn't make it in, shelves were bare. And we're talking, this was just a matter of snow. I mean, that's all it took.
So if we had an oil crisis, a dollar crisis.
Exactly. I mean, the way the system is now, the turnover rate and stuff, because of their big box warehouse stores, they get shipments daily. And like the store I worked at, which was, I would say your average grocery store, probably got 6. It doesn't take long to wipe out the store. I'm literally within 3 days, it'll be almost shelf. So, I can see where any disruption in the system, especially in these urban areas where you're not prepared, you're going to be in a lot of trouble. When you walk in, you cannot walk into to get gasoline in my local community without getting somebody hitting you up for money.
Yeah, so it's me. In Southern California, everywhere I go, the rate of panhandling is growing exponentially.
It's huge. And
I used to give money every time I saw someone, but now that would cost me $100
yeah,
per month.
And now it's getting serious. About a month ago, my son went into a gas station, and the guy saw him take out his money to pay for his gas, and he pulled it outside to put air in his tire, and the guy actually pulled a knife on him. Luckily, my son
Trained in martial
arts and got him on the ground, and a cop flew in, happened to be in the area. I don't know if somebody inside the store called or what, but that kind of things happen all the time. And the person might have been just, he might have been a criminal element, but if you're out of work for a while and you're on the street, you're compelled to, survive whatever way you can. I have to say it, but anyway, yeah, everywhere we go up here, almost any gas station you go to, a fast food place, you're going to run into people asking for money.
And I read an article on that. It's not the looting and the robberies that are going to be scary, but it's actually just the families that will hit the streets. How are you going to be able to turn people away when mass begging and what's happening starts to happen? It's going to be heart-wrenching to see people on the streets.
Yeah, well, and it was kind of interesting. There was a guy by the grocery store by my house. He was wearing a suit and tie, and he had a big, like a computer sign. He says, "I just lost my corporate job. Can you help?"
What do you think about all this panhandling that's going on?
Well, if we can, we need to, discern which ones are sincere and help them. Because these people are, they're in bad shape because of our government. So, we all need to give from our hearts when we can. It can get real expensive. So where do you feel like, what, that guy's sincere? Try out. If he's not, that's going to be on his soul and his conscience.
You know what I'm really scared of? 500,000 people are on welfare in Los Angeles County. What happens when the California goes bankrupt and let's say they miss a check? You're going to have mass begging. I mean, it's already gone exponentially.
Exactly. So it's just going to get worse. So we've got a big job ahead of us.
Okay. Now, there is a whole lot here in this message. And,
Robert Joseph Stark.
like I say,
I'm here in Anchor Point, Alaska, on Kenai Peninsula, kind of southwestern
hold
side,
on 1
20
second.
miles outside of Homer.
all right. That happened. Let me get this under control here. All right. I'm going to have to go around. Hold on 1 second. Bear with me, everybody, while I get this dialed in. All right. Okay, bear with me. Okay, that guy was living off grid, looked like. But, okay, one of these guys I know, this was from 2014, he brought up a wealth of thought-provoking information and some things for us to even check out, for sure. Okay, so now Douglas V Gibbs here, he is talking about the Freeman, and not Freeman, he's talking about the census, and do they have a right to include illegals in the census? Okay, and so if they have a right to do that, and if he's relating it to the Indians from the Constitution, okay, and hold on, bear with me. And so, okay, so if the Indians, if they were not a part of the system and they didn't have social security numbers, then what makes them any more different than, and they're sovereign, what makes it any more different than the person that goes, I don't have a social security number, I am sovereign? Why is that such a problem? You know, that's what I want to know, is why is that such a problem? So I'm trying to get back here to David's statement when he's doing this, when he's talking about, I believe it's the 14th Amendment of the Constitution, and the comparing the Indians and the Mexicans, and saying, mentioning how that they're sovereign, the Indians were, and there needs to be an amendment added to this. But does that not apply to people that are going, I've turned in my social security card, my number, I don't want anything to do with it, I just want to live free under any expectations or obligations or anything else that this puts me under, and I don't want any part of that? This is America. Do they not have the right and the freedom that the Constitution affords them to do that? So why is our government against it? That's what I wonder. Why?
Welcome, time for Constitution Study Television. I am Douglas V. Gibbs, your host, DouglasVGibbs.com, PoliticalPistachio.com, and Arvid asked the question, after watching the Three-Fifths Compromise and Apportionment video, if a person is here illegally, they are not citizens, why are they counted and used to redraw congressional districts, dole out federal spending, and ultimately affect public policy?
Now, that's where he starts. So, he is going to mention how that they're sovereign. And that's what I'm talking about, because it should apply. If you don't have a social security card, you don't have a social security number, you are from the United States, then why is that an issue if you want to live in a sovereign lifestyle. Why is that a problem in America? Land of the free, home of the brave, right? Our family members go to defend our country, and they take an oath to defend the Constitution. And if our family members, and any of you that have joined and been a part of the military, you vowed an oath. You swore an oath to uphold the Constitution. The Constitution gives us our freedoms, and the Constitution foundation actually comes from the Bible. That's not something most people know, and how sad is that? But yes, the Constitution actually is founded from the Bible. And so it affords us the liberties. So if a person wants to live a sovereign lifestyle that these two guys here on the video were talking about, why is that such a problem? It shouldn't be. This is America, and the Constitution affords us that right, and it's a God-given right. And if you look up free man, you have a right to be free. So we need to get back to basics. That's why I say, and have been saying since I've learned a little bit about this Constitution, that we all need to know it. And most people don't understand, they don't even know that the Constitution either gives our government the right to do something, or it doesn't. It gives them permission to do it, or it doesn't. And ignorance, doesn't matter, because they don't want to know the Constitution, because they want to run a muck, do their own thing, and put into motion whatever they feel like, and overlook the Constitution that our servicemen, our family members, have sworn oath to defend, yet they don't want to know it. We need to hold them accountable. So David V. Gibbs touches base on that here. So let's hear what he's got to say again. And what are your thoughts?
Sovereign nation, Indians are also exempt from tax. That's beside the point. All right, so illegal alien.
But David, is it beside the point if the Indians are sovereign and they're exempt from sales tax, and they're sovereign and they're exempt, then what about Americans? What about Americans, David, that want to live a sovereign lifestyle? Our Constitution affords them that. And then the free man has the right to be free, not put under bondage and debt, based on what these two men were just talking about here. What about that, David? Not besides the point, right? Let's talk about that. But let's go on to hear what he's saying, because everything he's saying actually applies to the person that wants to be sovereign. Yet it's being overlooked everywhere. So let's hear what he's got to say. And I'm coming at this from the position of, if a person in America wants to live a sovereign lifestyle, a free man on the land, why is that a threat? Why is that a problem? Why is it being overlooked? This is America.
Indians are foreigners in this country that are not taxed. Why? Because they're not citizens, they're not permanent residents, they're not resident aliens, they don't have a green card, so therefore the IRS really doesn't have anything on them. They technically don't have a social security number, which in today's society means you can be taxed. So it puts us at...
Okay, in today's society, if you have a social security number, that means you can be taxed. That's why I can be taxed. These two gentlemen, and others, I'm sure, are living this lifestyle. They've given up their social security numbers, and there is a form you can fill out that they mentioned earlier in the broadcast, when they were being interviewed that they gave up their Social Security numbers. They filled out a form at the Social Security office, and they made it very clear that the Social Security office plays dumb, act like it doesn't exist, hem-haws around. At the end of the day, they had to give it to them, and they filled it out, and they got rid of their Social Security number. So they're exempt, but why? They're Americans. No different than me and you. They're just average guys. Why is that a threat? Why is our legal system so dead against it, dead set against that? Our Constitution affords them and everyone the freedoms we all enjoy. Why do they want to isolate this thing and keep a lock on it? This shouldn't be happening. We need to get back to basics, America. This saddens me. And David isn't even really addressing that, although this friend of mine right here says it plain. It's not being applying it to the person that wants to be sovereign or wants to get out from underneath the debt that this government has put on everybody. He's not dealing with that, but it applies, and that's why I'm using this right here. We need to know and understand the Constitution, and that's why I'm doing this. United we stand, divided we fall. United we stand, America. That's every one of the lawmakers enjoy the freedoms they enjoy because of the Constitution. We all enjoy them. Legislature, anybody political ends up seeing this, please hear my heart. We got to get back to basics. Even though David, again, isn't talking about this particular aspect, it applies. Let's hear what else he has to say.
Into a situation. The language technically says persons, so illegal aliens should be counted and should count towards apportionment, yet Indians not taxed cannot or should not be. Are they not, are illegal aliens not really the same as an Indian not taxed? They are a foreign sovereign person outside the system.
There it is, a foreigner or a sovereign person outside the system. It applies. This shouldn't be a problem. We need to see, he's not even seeing this aspect, and he's not even talking about the aspect that I'm using his content for at the moment. But it's right here in our faces.
That doesn't pay taxes because they're not really a part of the system. They're not within the full jurisdiction. So there you go. So yeah. So today we have the system deciding that the illegal aliens will be counted towards apportionment. Well, what are they looking at? It says persons. The only persons that are not really counted are Indians not taxed. So technically, they're right when they count illegal aliens towards apportionment. Personally, I think they shouldn't be. It's only citizens and permanent resident aliens who have basically taken the oath that they are under the jurisdiction of the United States should be counted towards apportionment. However, to make sure that that language clearly states that, we need an amendment. Because the Constitution doesn't clearly state that. The Constitution says persons. And the only people that really aren't supposed to count towards apportionment are Indians not taxed. I get it. Foreign persons who have broken the law and illegally come into this country are not taxed should fit that. However, because it wasn't concerned back then, that wording didn't go in there. So we need to put the wording in there. We need an amendment to make sure that illegal aliens are not being counted towards apportionment for the House of Representatives.
And those that would apply again straight across the board to anyone that's just wanting to be sovereign and live their life undisturbed without all this pressure and all the conflict and all the debt. They should have a right not to. And they do. So it needs to be rewritten. Definitely David. David V as in Victor. V Gibbs. I agree. But it should extend over to Americans, those that are here in the United States. It should apply to anyone. You know, if you got to define it as in illegals, those that are sovereign, that would apply. But it's not even this aspect that I'm bringing to the table is being overlooked. And it's why I'm bringing this up. And I'm sitting here making my plea, you know. I mean, you think I'm out in left field? You know, I'm not. I mean, I have a social security number. I have a license. I'm not one of these people, but they have a right. Like, I don't smoke. But you have a right to smoke. If you smoke, you got a God-given right to smoke. As much as I may not like it, as much as I know it's going to shorten your life, you got a right to it, to choose. To choose. It's a freedom of choice. God doesn't infringe upon our choices. Neither should the government. And it's a violation of the Constitution for them to do so. Freedom of choice. This isn't China. And if we're not careful, we may just end up being no different. Something to think about. Let's listen on.
There's nothing the Constitution says currently they can't be. My name is Douglas V Gibbs. Check out my books. My latest, A Promise of American Liberty, is out. $40. Too much for you? No problem. Go to the first one. 25 Myths of the United States Constitution, $15. Got a couple of $10 books. Look them up. Go to douglasvgibbs.com/books.php. Also, don't forget that I've got a new bumper sticker out there called that says U.S. Constitution trumps socialism. To you, $75 and your address, and I'll send it to you. Go to my donate button on douglasvgibbs.com, politicalpistachio.com, and I'll ship one out to you after you donate your $5. Or you know what? You want to help the cause? Do a monthly donation. I'm telling you, we're always needing funds. It's the cost of purchasing pocket constitutions to get them into classrooms, and the cost of fuel, public speaking, all the different things I do. It all adds up. So we'd love to have you as a monthly donor. Also, coming up on July 13th, 2019, Chris Ann Hall is going to speak at the Constitution Association annual dinner. Go to constitutionassociation.com to learn more. See the flyer, get your tickets. I think that's all the in-house business for the end of this video. So we'll see you next time right here on YouTube, Constitution Study Television. Stay safe, stay patriotic, and as always, stay constitutional. We'll see you next time.
Okay, there you have it, folks. All right, let me turn this around. Oh, blocking the screen. Well, how are we doing? In order to really get a full taste of tonight's live stream, you really need to do a playback. Teacher DD, you in here? You are new to my channel. Thank you for showing up. What do you think about this? You might want to go back and do a replay and comments here or after the live stream, that would be appreciated. Or shout this out, tweet it out, whatever. A lot of good, thought-provoking information. I know one of the guys here that are in this broadcast, and they live this stuff. They're living it. I could take my hat off to them, but it's not something that I haven't done that. I'm not comfortable myself, but if a person wants to, they shouldn't be having to go through all the hurdles and hoops and it's this is America. It's not China. It's not Russia. And as David states there, if it applies to the Indians and then it applies to the illegals, it definitely applies to Americans here in the United States, and it should apply to the Americans here in the United States first and foremost. But why is our government so dead set against it? Why do they have their guards up and they look at you sideways like you've got something wrong with you, Like, these guys are honest. These guys are trustworthy. A lot of them are Christians. They just want to enjoy their God-given rights. They don't want the ties on them. They don't want all this stuff that really doesn't belong to us. It was all backwards to begin with. And they're seeing it, they understand it, and they are willing to say, okay, cut me loose. I don't want nothing to do with this. That shouldn't be an issue. This is America, freedom of choice. Or else are they not being held hostage to the system? Is the system that's designed not holding them hostage? People go to jail for holding someone hostage. This is a huge violation of our rights. It's against their will to be a part of it. And yet, the powers that be try to force them, and anyone that wants to say, hey, I don't want no part of this. I want out of this. This isn't a gang, or is it? It's not a gang. These are elected officials that we put in office because we trust them. They're Americans whom we trust. And the very ones that we've trusted and put in office, they're going to band together, and instead of saying, whoa, we need to give anyone in America that wants to take this route, they want to live this lifestyle, they don't want to be a part of this, okay. That shouldn't be a problem. Our forefathers wouldn't have had an issue with it. They probably lived this way to start with. And then slowly they got away from it. And here we are today in this menagerie of goop that these guys are trying to untie and clean up for themselves so they can just live their own life peaceably, without all the unnecessary stuff to deal with. I mean, what a deal, But I don't know why that's a problem. It shouldn't be. So it's all food for thought. The Indians are sovereign. Your home is sovereign. And if you don't understand sovereign, look it up. And like these guys said, a lot of these terms you need to look up, like from the 1940s, from the 1900s, from the 1800s, the terms before they were changed, or just completely removed. Webster's dictionary, there's quite a few words, statements, definitions that were changed at 1900. It wasn't to simplify it. They completely changed it to say something else. We don't know that in general. Most Americans don't know that Webster's Dictionary, a lot of information in there has been completely changed from its original definition so that they can start twisting society and getting control in areas that they want us to be ignorant about and don't want us to know the original definitions of. And it's not until you get into these older dictionaries do you find, oh, wow, what it says in the 1900s in the Webster's Dictionary and what the Webster's Dictionary says today are two separate things. It doesn't even read the same. It doesn't say the same thing. It's been changed. How sad is that? So you got to know what the original definitions are, the original meaning is, when you're doing your research on anything in general. When it comes to the Bible, knowing the Greek, the original Greek, the Latin, the Hebrew, the Chaldean language, and doing research on words. Words have meaning. And our legislature and our lawmakers, so they choose their words wisely when they speak, when they write a law. Well, Will, thanks for being here. Teacher Dee Dee, thanks for being here, unless you're still here. HTJH Travels, thanks for being here. Appreciate you being here. And it's been a pretty heavy live stream tonight. Great stream, friends. I hammered the like button. Can't stay. Got a 655 sharing this on Twitter. Excellent. Thank you very much, HTJH Travels. Thank you, bro. So anyways, I was hoping maybe there would be some more in the stream. We could have some conversation about this. I look forward to hearing your comments after this live stream. So I'm going to call it a night. And this is the Insane Friends. So don't forget, we have on Sunday for Insane Friends, we have Sunday Sane Sunday Live, 7:30 p.m. We have Gregory Salvadori, 9 p.m. Monday we have Etard Adventures, 9 p.m. On Tuesdays we have Bubbacification, 7 p.m. We have Wednesday, we have Sane Enterprise. There you talk about different aspects of making money here on YouTube and having a business. And Sane Enterprise on Wednesday, we have at 7:30 p.m. Following, we have Muscle Car Appraisal. They do car appraisals, motorcycles, boats, you name it, they appraise it. Muscle Car Appraisal. Take it to them if you need an appraisal. Insurance appraisal, etc. All right. Thursday night, 6 p.m. Pacific time, we have Dorito and the Luce Card at 6 p.m. or 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Thursday nights, 6 p.m. You have yours truly, Easy 2 Tips and Tricks, etc. Saturday, we have Choppers, Rule 1. That's in Australia, so it's like 9:30 Sunday morning their time. That's Saturday, Choppers Rule 1 at 6:30 Eastern Standard Time. Or it would be Pacific Time, 6:30 Pacific Time. Saturday, 9 a.m., Fab Automotive Detailing. Again, that's Fab Automotive Detailing at 9 a.m. on Saturday. So everyone, thanks for being here. I don't know who's laying back, hanging out behind the scenes here, but thank you for being here. You know, I don't know if it's RG Homestead or who, but whoever you are, I hope you're well. Take care. We're going to call it a night. God bless. And united we stand, and united we make it happen. So bye for now, and never give up. Because there's always a way. Always.